The Badgers have their eyes on a big-time 26 prospect that could be the key to the class.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Today's episode, we are talking about how Greg Gard nailed this offseason, thoughts on Jarin Mock leaving that 26 class, and did the Badgers do it correctly, plus a huge target in that 2026 class for the Badgers we're going to talk about. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. From the whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's jump into this. The Badgers just offered a really interesting quarterback in the 2026 class. Bo Bentley, 6'2", 200 pounds, out of Salina, Texas. He's a composite four-star kid. So you're talking he's about a top 250-ish kid, top 20-ish quarterback in the state of Texas. Won a Texas State championship, had a really good junior year. What does the film say? So first of all, a couple things that are interesting here. Before we even get into the film and what we like about Bo Bentley, you have new offensive coordinator in Jeff Grimes. You have a new quarterbacks coach in Kenny Guyton. This is maybe their first, when they really sat down, they reevaluated the board. This is a big offer for them because it tells you, he's at the top of their board. Take everything we've talked about, everything we've talked about in 26 recruiting, Jiren Mock, who we're going to talk about in a second. Take all of that's already happened, throw it out the window, because now you have new evaluators at that spot. Phil Longo's gone. You have Grimes and you have Guyton, and they are going to take a look at something different. They're looking for a different type of quarterback. They're looking for somebody, I think, that has a little more mobility, that can throw off platform a little bit better. That's, I think, a little tougher, quite frankly. Maybe not as pure of a thrower, and maybe not someone who, is going to hit that back foot and immediately release the ball. But they are looking for someone who I think is a little bit of a higher ceiling. You look at Carter Smith coming in last year, and now we are looking at Bo Bentley. Bo Bentley, 6'2", 200-pound, four-star quarterback from Texas, offered very recently by the Badgers. And it's not a big-time offer list. This is a winnable offer list at this point. There's Georgia Tech, there's Cal, Duke, Arizona, Texas Tech, Boston College. Now, he is starting to hear from Oklahoma, Auburn, Georgia, which shouldn't surprise anybody. He's coming off a big year in Texas. He's got athletic traits. He's a four-star quarterback. Everybody needs that spot. So I think the competition is going to ramp up here, which means two things. It's good that the Badgers are in now, right? And not 2 months from now when maybe those Georgia discussions, Auburn discussions, maybe they're more fruitful. Maybe they're a little further down the road. The Badgers have an opportunity to get in now while this is a beatable list and make hay. Really, really become the pole spot on this guy, because you watch the film. There's a lot of Carter Smith here. There's a lot of, you see him decleating players when he doesn't have the ball. Same type of situation with Carter Smith. Similar size as Carter Smith, 6'2", about 200 pounds, pretty well built, really good short area quickness in the pocket. That's one of the first things I look for. Like, I don't necessarily need a great athlete, but can you make the first free rusher miss? Can you buy time in the pocket? Can you shift to the left? Can you roll out to the right? Can you backpedal and then explode forward and then throw on the run? Those little movements in the pocket where your tackle gets beat or you don't account for the free rusher or whatever happens, if you can make that first guy miss, you throw the defense into disarray. Because guys just can't cover for 4 or 5 seconds. You have to be able to make that first free rusher miss. You have to be able to buy a second or two longer. That's what Badger quarterbacks haven't done recently. That's what Braden Locke couldn't do. He couldn't buy time in the pocket. He couldn't make that first guy miss. That is exactly what Bo Bentley can do. He can do that. Let's get to the good things that I really liked. Really nice deep ball. Really shows great touch on the deep ball down the seams, vertical 9 routes, really laces the ball over the coverage, fits it in there really, really nicely. And then on some of the shorter intermediate routes, slants, outs, he can really has kind of a dart action on the throw, whips it in there, good velocity on it, good ball placement on the highlights that I was able to see. And again, I'm watching highlights. I'm excited to dig more into them, but you see a really good arm, good accuracy, good deep ball accuracy, the ability to move in the pocket. I really liked on the left, rolling out left or right. He's able to do both. And then in scramble situations, he keeps his head up. He's looking for, in a lot of spots, he's looking for the receiver, where a lot of high school quarterbacks, a lot of younger quarterbacks, heck, a lot of college quarterbacks, when they start to tuck it, they go. They gone. They gone. They're going to get 4 yards. They gone. He does a really nice job of keeping his head up, looking for an open receiver or receiver breaking open, looking for some coverage breakdown, which always happens in scramble situations. I really like that aspect of his game. And then as a runner, you see north-south speed, the ability to get down the field quickly. He will take defenders on. There's some inherent toughness there that he's going to probably have to play a little smarter as the quarterback. You don't want him taking too many shots. But I think he checks a lot of boxes. I think he checks a lot of boxes for what you need, not just in modern college football, but for where the Badgers want to go with Jeff Grimes, this new offense. You want a quarterback that's going to be mobile, who can put defenses in flux, who can put them in a disadvantaged situation with his legs or his arm. I think he flashes a lot of those skills and a lot of those tools. A few things I think when you watch it, he's got to be a little more decisive at times. There are moments where, and you can even see it on the film, takes a snap, hit that back foot, you got to let it go. And there's a couple clips where you can see he's got receivers open and he still is kind of a little hesitant to trust his eyes maybe at times, right? Where he's looking, a little happy feet, move, and then throw it. You got to get a little quicker in the processing. I think you got to hit that, like I said, that back foot sometimes and just let it rip. Trust the arm, trust the route. But he's so young. Like, that stuff comes, like, it's going to come. It's going to get better with reps. It's going to get better as he gets older. That's some footwork stuff, some trust the eye stuff. Those reps, mechanics are going to help iron some of that out. From a physical skill set standpoint, it's a pretty high ceiling player. And that's really what you're looking for at the quarterback spot, especially in this upcoming class, where I think this is a 2 quarterback class if they can do it. So I think you get a Bo Bentley right here. If you can land a guy like this, that's your high upside guy. That's a guy that you can take a big swing on. And then I still think you're going to look for another player to bring in that's maybe a little more polished, maybe a little more higher floor type of thing, where you bring in 2 quarterbacks, because it's a small quarterback room right now. We've talked about it. This last offseason, you lost Braden Locke and you lost Metori and lost Cola Crew, and obviously Tyler Van Dyke's gone. And then Landon Locke, who you thought was coming in, is gone. There's a lot of attrition there, which is why I think this is a 2 quarterback class. And because of that, I love taking a big swing on an athletic dual threat Texas quarterback that has a really good arm, that has wheels, that has toughness. There's a lot of boxes that Bo Bentley checks. And I think the Badgers need to put the full court press on, because I think this recruitment's going to heat up. I know I was talking to Justin a little bit about him, or via text. Justin really likes him too. I think this recruitment's going to heat up. I think it's interesting that this is one of Grimes and Guyton's first moves, is to kind of pounce on this player here, Bo Bentley. I think the physical skill set plays up. It reminds me of Carter Smith from last year's class. And if this is where you go at quarterback and you don't get a second guy, you still feel really good about it. So I think it's a really impressive film. I'm excited for it. Definitely a player that we're going to be tracking as his recruitment goes on. But the Badgers are in on him early, and that's a good sign. Up next, did the Badgers do Jiren Mock dirty? He decommitted from the class in 26 and had a few choice words on Twitter. That's coming up next, Locked On Badgers. First, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is awesome. And right now, for the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, a variety of bets that keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com. Join today to get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and also the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. They're where I go. That's where the network goes to. That's what the NFL has gone to. That's FanDuel.com. Go check them out today. Okay, let's talk Jarin Mock for a second. So if you haven't been following along, Jiren Mock was one of the first commits in the 26 class, had committed to Phil Longo, quarterback out of Ohio. Comes from a pretty good football program there. Pretty good arm, good mobility, some good size. Not a true dual threat, but can move around in the pocket a little bit. He decommitted from the program. And this is what he said on Twitter. And I think it's interesting for a couple reasons that I want to get into. This is Jiren Mock on Twitter, quote, "After a brief conversation with Wisconsin, they are no longer honoring my commitment. With that being said, my recruitment is 100% open." So what does that mean exactly? They're no longer honoring my commitment. Let me first start by saying it's a tiny bit surprising to me. I don't know who else they're going to be in. I just got done talking about Bo Bentley. I do think this is a 2 quarterback class, and Jiren Mock is kind of, to me, the type of guy you're looking for as a second quarterback. Somebody who is maybe not the highest upside guy, but has some quarterback ability, can move a little bit, has size. He was playing pretty good ball, had a pretty good year last year. He feels like a good opportunity for a second quarterback. But what does this tell us? It tells us that new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, new quarterbacks coach, they don't really love what they saw from him. And maybe it's just more of a fit thing, right? They don't really love maybe what Mock was going to be able to fit with what they want to do at that spot. And they were honest with him. That's called radical candor. That's not a bad thing. It's not Wisconsin's fault that they just revamped their coaching staff. They had to make moves, new people come in. They're evaluating talent with a fresh set of eyes. And they're saying that guy doesn't fit what we want to do. Let's not string him along. I think there's some dignity and honor in how that happens, right? From a Wisconsin standpoint. Now you cut him loose. He still has time to hopefully find a new spot, find maybe a better fit for him. He's not going to get to campus, never get an opportunity, and leave a year later. A guy I think of is like an Austin Kofensis, right? Who was a quarterback that was committed to Gary Anderson. Paul Chryst came in and said, "Yeah, we're still going to try at quarterback," but I think Paul Chryst always knew he couldn't do it. Austin Kofensis came in, left right away. It was just a big waste of time for everybody. This saves all of that. If you don't believe that he can come in and play quarterback, then it's better to cut bait right now. It's more fair to him. It's more fair to you. You can go find the players that you really want. I'm not going to say wasting time and resources because that's probably not the best choice of words, but you're not going to be using time and resources on a player that you don't think has a future at that spot for your program. Period. I like what Wisconsin did here. It is what it is. Like, this is a business, and you have to go find the players that fit what you want to do. Now, for Jiren Mock, from his standpoint, I don't dislike what he put on Twitter either. I think it's a totally fair thing to be frustrated. He doesn't owe us oh shucks, thanks for the opportunity, Wisconsin. I wish it would have worked out. He doesn't owe us that. He doesn't owe Wisconsin that. I like Jiren. I had him on the show. He's a really nice kid, and in my very brief interactions with him, he's a D1 quarterback for sure. He's going to get an opportunity somewhere. He does have some physical skills, pretty good size, a little lanky, but a player who moves in the pocket pretty well, has a pretty advanced feel for playing quarterback at his age. Again, much like Bentley, keeps his eyes down the field as he's scrambling. He's not the athlete Bentley is, but he's got some skills. But big picture, I don't dislike what anybody did in this situation. I really don't. I respect Wisconsin for just being honest, saying you're not going to play quarterback here. You are not what we're looking for. We're going to cut you loose, even though we have a dearth of quarterbacks, even though we have a need for more depth there. They easily could have strung him out. I think other programs would have. They could have strung him out and still try to get two guys. And then if they didn't at the end, they would still have him kind of in the bullpen. And if they got a second guy, they would just cut him loose later. There's a lot of programs that would do that. I respect that Wisconsin didn't do that to Jiren. It wouldn't have been fair. And I also respect Jiren just coming to Twitter and saying, hey, they didn't honor it. That's also true. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this from either standpoint, quite frankly. And I kind of like the decisiveness of Wisconsin because that shows that they have a plan. It shows that they understand what they're looking for. They're not just sticking the hand into the cookie jar and seeing what quarterback they can pull out. They know exactly. I think Grimes and Guyton are probably on the same page here. They know what they're looking for. It's the type of quarterback that Carter Smith was last year. It's Bo Bentley this year. They're looking for a player who can affect the game through the ground and through the air, on the ground and through the air. And as much as Mock has the ability to move a little bit and move the pocket a little bit, he's not a true dual threat guy. And that's what they want. So again, I don't have any issue with what Wisconsin did here. In fact, I think they did the best thing they could have done. They did the honest thing and they cut it loose. And I've got no issue with Jarin Mock. I hope he goes and lands in a great spot. He did nothing wrong. It's unfortunate for him. Like, I feel for him. You know, he had committed to a college and it just didn't work out through no fault of his own. So I feel for him, but he's going to land somewhere. He's a pretty good quarterback. I think it's more interesting to me that you're seeing, again, some decisiveness. You're seeing this coaching staff, start to move on what they really want this program to be. And I think it's a good thing. Now, where will that second quarterback come from? Because I do think you have to shoot for two this class. I don't know. And where's that first quarterback going to come from? Because maybe that's not Bo Bentley either if they can't land him. But I do think this puts more pressure on the Badgers because whether you think he's a fit or not, you did have a bird in hand. And now you got to go find two. And at the very least, you got to find one that you feel really, really, really good about. Because once again, there's no long-term answers in that room right now. You're bringing in another portal guy. We like him. Carter Smith, it's a 4-star, but he's a freshman, right? You have to add arms, and you have to have bodies, and you have to have options to that quarterback room. They need two. I think they need two, and you just let one leave, which is, again, I'm okay with, but now you better be able to go and backfill that spot. So I think he does put a little more pressure on the Badgers, but ultimately, if he wasn't going to be a fit for you, he wasn't going to work for you, it wouldn't have worked out anyway. Like, there's no real point in adding bodies to a room that you don't think are good enough, not good enough, but the type of bodies you want in there anyway. So I like what Wisconsin did. I like what Jarin Mock did. No issues, but it is kind of interesting. Coming up, let's talk Greg Gard and two things that he did that he absolutely nailed to maybe make this team better than last year's. That's next. Locked On Badgers. First, a quick break for our friends of the show over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is awesome. Prize Picks is your perfect spot for daily fantasy. They've absolutely perfected it. It's the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million subscribers, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's simple to me, which is why I like it. It's not incredibly involved and complex and long and convoluted like a lot of fantasy games. Prize Picks is simple. It's fast. It's easy. You can knock it out in a couple minutes and enjoy doing it. You're not playing against these crazy stacked people. You're just playing the odds, more or less, on more than two categories. Prize Picks is the only money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if somebody gets hurt. Right now, head over to Prize Picks, download the app today, use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On College to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, let's talk Greg Gard for a second. And two things he did this offseason that he absolutely nailed, because I think this is fascinating. I think this Greg Gard team is fascinating. I think that offseason's fascinating. What happened? You lost AJ Storr, who any talent evaluator from a 30,000-foot view looking at this program would have said that's your best NBA talent. You just lost your NBA-type wing. Kansas gobbled him up, paid him $1 million. What a loss. And you lost Chucky Hepburn. And a lot of people said, well, there's your point guard, 3-year starter. That's the head of the snake. And then you lost Tyler Wall, who's a veteran presence, and that was your best defender and the guy who could switch and rebound. And what did you do? You went and got, I don't know, a John Tonje who didn't play much last year for Mizzou, a Cam Hunter who missed all of last year with an injury and, played at a lower level before that. You're counting on that Daniel Freitag, and I don't know. You need a lot of guys to step up, and you got a Xavier Amos, but he wasn't on a very good team. There's no way this team is better, and they're better. This team is better than last year. What did Greg Gard do? Like, how did he make that work? It's two things. The first is culture. Like, Wisconsin here's the thing. Culture has always mattered, and Wisconsin has generally in football and basketball been ahead of the curve on culture. But now in the NIL era, when there's so much flux, when there's so much me first, when there's so much grass is greener, culture matters more than ever. Good culture matters more than ever. I went to a coaching clinic once, and there was a Division II coach there, and he said culture was such a big deal to them. And this was a really good Division II coach. He said, our culture is worth 4 to 6 points a game. We think that's how strong our culture is because our players love each other and they play for each other. I think this culture is really strong, and it's been fostered by Greg Gard. And I think in an NIL era, when more and more players are actively out for themselves, and I'm glad that players get paid. I've always said that. I've said that for a long time. But it has led to players not buying in, players bouncing on their teams, players taking calls from other teams during the season. It's led to the erosion of culture in college sports. And culture matters in team sports. It absolutely matters. This team has great culture, and it's built through guys like Carter Gilmore. It's built through guys like Kamari McGee. It's built through guys like Stephen Crowell even. It's built through guys like and the right type of veteran transfers, guys like John Tonja, who played a ton of basketball. A guy like Nolan Winter, who obviously not a transfer, but has came from a program that in high school that has always sent people to the Badgers. There's a respect for the program there. This culture is worth points on this team. I think you have to give Greg Gard credit for that. And that's the one spot where the Badgers can zig a little bit when other teams are zagging. When other teams are adding every year 4 or 5 portal guys, the Badgers can have an advantage with their culture because Greg Gard is able to build that. He's able to there's a lot of programs that would have sent after that first year of Kamari McGee, they might have said, no, I think we're good. We're going to replace you. There's a lot of programs that would not have stuck with the Carter Gilmore, that would have not have defended him his first couple of years, that would have not have fostered that environment, that would have not have developed him because they just wouldn't have put in the work. They would have found somebody else. Instead, Greg Gard developed him. They created this culture here, and now guys like Gilmore and Kamari McGee are key components to this team. And one of the best things they bring is that culture and that accountability that, again, was fostered by Greg Gard. I just think it's such an underrated part of this team. And it's something the Badgers can do at this level in this NIL game where they can still build some culture and they can still beat teams with their culture. So that's the first one. The second one that he did was he adapted, right? So he built the culture and then he adapted. He did what a lot of coaches, not just Greg Gard or Bo Ryan or people like that, have struggled to do. A lot of coaches struggle to adapt because they have too much ego. They just have too much ego. They're control freaks. Well, what Greg Gard has done is he said, okay, let's modernize this offense. Like, okay, let's embrace NIL. Excuse me. Let's embrace the portal. Sure, we lost AJ Storr. Let's go get John Tonje. And he's found people who are fits for what he wants to do. He has found people that fit the new version of offense that he wants to run. He's brought people, other coaches in that think differently than him, that have played overseas, that have been in the NBA, Steemsma and Kirk Penny, guys who are going to bring in and bring different ideas. And he's implemented those ideas. That's the thing. You can bring all the idea people you want into your circle. If you don't listen to them and don't do anything because you're too egotistical and you're too arrogant, it won't matter. He has proven that he can take those ideas and he can implement them. He can change. And he has before our eyes. And you got to respect that because he's been at this for a long time. He's won a lot of games. He's been pretty damn successful. And for him to be like, okay, I'm good. Let's completely adjust how we play this offense. Let's embrace a different type of analytics. Let's expand our coaching staff. Let's play Crowell and Winter together. Let's have a big front court, but I'm also okay going zone. He's shown a couple, not many, but he's even gone zone a couple possessions this year, right? He's played small ball a little bit this year. He's been okay starting a traditionalist point guardless lineup this year. You can go on and on. Like, he has proven himself to be adaptable and adjustable, and you need that. I think you need some of that if you're going to have a really good coach. So he's found fits in the portal. He's built culture, and he's been adaptable. And those are the reasons that Greg Gard, despite losing what most people on the outside would have said are your best couple players, despite losing a Storr and a Hepburn and a Wall. And by the way, I think Hepburn would be really good on this team. Hepburn, if you could have kept him, this team would be friggin' stacked. They would cook people in a microwave. They would put defenses in a blender with this year's basketball team if you had Hepburn, because you'd have another distributor who likes finding people that are open to shoot and a guy who would thrive off that, in my opinion. But the bigger point is, even despite that loss, Greg Gard has adapted and he's moved this team forward. I give him a ton of credit. Now, this season's not over. He still has to make a run in March. But if this team keeps playing this way, this is not a team people are going to want to face in March. This is the type of team that can scare you because they can go on a run, because they can get on a heater. And now for a couple games, they've proven they can win with less than optimal shooting. So they're starting to answer that question as well. So to me, it's a hats off for Greg Gard. I think he nailed the offseason. And I think he's done it by building culture, finding fits, and being able to adapt. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Really do appreciate you. A bunch of content coming up when you're done. Go check out Locked On Big Ten. All the biggest stories on the Big Ten channel. Obviously, playoffs going on, but a bunch else that's on our Locked On Big Ten channel. As always, I really do appreciate everybody tuning in on Wisconsin, and we will talk later.